Howdy ho, Rachel.
Howdy ho, Kristen. Thank you for that warm introduction.
You're so welcome.
I feel like very close to you.
I know. We're in a new position.
This is just... We're in a similar position, just much closer together. We're on a desk. This is just not painting the picture we're going for at all.
I know. So I've redone my office and I still have to get furniture for our podcasting corner.
Mm-hmm.
So right now we are on either side of my desk, just staring very deeply into each other's eyes.
Yes. About 12 inches apart. Sitting there.
Okay. So let's talk about this.
The hospital?
All the things. Are you ready? Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah. No, I think we should.
All right. Let's welcome everybody.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Welcome to Two Mystic Mamas.
Oh my gosh. The last 3 weeks have just been a roller coaster.
I feel like I should have a couch for you to lay on while you talk about this.
I know. Therapy session. I don't even know where to start, really, other than it's just been super heavy and lots of great lessons. Naturally, I have a growth mindset, so I never think life is happening to me. I always view it as life is happening for me, even when it is really challenging, really heavy, and difficult. Cried a lot in the last 3 weeks. You know, Kristen and I keep a pretty solid schedule when it comes to our recording of our episodes, our meeting with our editors. I would say we are fairly organized. There's always room for improvement.
We endeavor to be, for sure.
Yep. And as life does, you can't always control all the things that you have the best laid plans for. And so that really started to kind of happen a few weeks ago when we wanted to have the two Mystic Misters on, our husbands. And my husband got jammed up at work to the point where there was really no availability to schedule. You guys had come down for dinner. So we just kind of focused on just doing that and not trying to record an episode because Jeffrey was not in a great...
He was not in the headspace to record.
He was not in the headspace to record. So, yeah, that happened. Then I was coming up here on the following Monday to record, and I had been having some health issues that kind of just came out of nowhere, to be honest. I'm pretty hyper attuned to like how I feel, how my body feels. And I had been feeling just off. Now I know that it's hypertension. So I was having high blood pressure, and I had been having like dizzy spells when I would lay down in bed or like turn my head. And then I went to the chiropractor and she took my blood pressure and she was like, your blood pressure is really high, which if you're listening and you're like, I don't know what blood pressure is, either did I, but I have found out quite a bit. And it is, if you have hypertension, high blood pressure, it is definitely something you have to get checked out by medical professionals because it can lead to major medical emergencies and issues like strokes or heart attacks, which can lead to all different types of things. So basically, we ended up in the ER on Monday because I called one of our mutual friends who's a nurse and was telling her what was happening. And she basically yelled at me to go to the emergency room. So instead of having a recording, we were in the ER together.
We were. And you know how I like my handy dandy notes?
Yes.
Every time they took your blood pressure.
Yeah.
Well, first in triage, I looked and I could see it. And then the girl kind of like moved the monitor away
so I
from
couldn't
me.
see it.
Right. But I was still like checking on it. And it was very high when we got in there. So I'm very glad that they were able to like get you feeling better and, you know, get you home.
So we are on a little bit of a different course. It's interesting too, because like they did a CT scan and like my brain checked out and naturally I was hooked up. So they did an EKG and my EKG looked good. So my heart was ticking away the way it should. And things can cause blood pressure to rise that have nothing to do necessarily with us. Genetics is a big thing that you can just have high blood pressure. Stress can add to it, alcohol, caffeine, lack of exercise and movement. So I have been on a little bit of a trajectory, which is interesting because we were just editing the podcast about full moon energy, and it was kind of a premonition to myself as to some things I wanted to see change. So again, be mindful of the things that you are saying in your head out loud, things you're writing, because inevitably we do manifest what we want to see happen, what changes we want to happen. And those can be challenging at times. They can also be very joyful. I'm very grateful for Kristen. I'm very grateful for Charlie. I'm grateful to my husband. I had like a whole entourage of people at the ER. And it seems, it's one of those things, I know we talked about this when I was there, that I definitely felt like I was being an inconvenience, which I know is a feeling that a lot of people can relate to, right? Like,
I'm just shaking my head at her.
I know. But I think that's a learned behavior of being inconvenient and not putting others in an inconvenient situation when you need to focus on yourself. And I was really grateful that I had people that kind of negated that and said, no, you're not being an inconvenience. Let's do this. Let's get you, sorted. Charlie especially was great because he was just super motivational. Terrible sense of direction though, but super motivational.
Oh man, that guy.
He makes me laugh. Like he's the kind of guy that like, he doesn't even try to make you laugh, but he does.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, cause we were driving there and he was driving cause I was upset. And then I was like, are we going in the right direction? And he was like, oh, I don't know. I probably should have put it in the GPS, but I have no idea.
I've only lived in this spot for 7 years?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway,
so
we're glad that you're healthy and you are here. And I will say this is another reminder that if you feel like something is going on, right? Even if you don't stop to take care of it, the universe is going to find a way to make you stop and take care of it.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I had intentions of I had reached out to my PCP, but after our friend, basically said you have to go to the ER right now, I pulled into Kristen's driveway. And if you guys have been here for a while, you know that my spirit animal is a red-tailed hawk. I see her all the time. And mostly like she will come when I need reassurance or reminders of like standing in my power, standing in my energy, using my gifts, not doubting myself, or if I need help making a decision. And I pulled up in the driveway and a red-tailed hawk flew down right in front of my car and landed on the branch and just like hung out there for a hot minute. And I was like, fuck, okay. So I knew that going and getting just checked out was on the docket, and there really was not any room for negotiation at that point.
Well, I think we'll have to have Charles on at some point to tell his
the story
version of this story walking out to you outside and the hawk, because I won't do it justice.
No, it was so funny because he has never walked outside of your house when I have come up here for our podcast ever.
Right.
And I got out of the car and I was trying to film the hawk because she had flown into the neighbor's yard. And I was like, I need to have video evidence that this is taking place and people believe me, not just making this up. Even though everybody I told, they were like, especially my husband was like,
you would be having a health event and be like, wait, I have to film this hawk.
I have to film the sign that the universe is sending me that I have to go do this. And he walked out and was like, hey, Kristen just had to run an errand and I like turned around and was like, and I just was crying and was like, I think I need to go to the ER. And he was like, what? Like, what's happening? So anyways, it was such an interesting day. as Kristen said, everything checked out. And I am healthy for the most part. I'm on a mild, low blood pressure medicine. I'm taking my blood pressure 3 times a day. Been fucking perfect every single time.
Good.
I know. And I've eliminated,
right.
like I'm eating really clean. I haven't had any caffeine. I haven't had any alcohol. And
so the combo is working of the medicine and the lifestyle changes.
Yes. Also, I think the universe and the planets and all the things can settle the fuck down, because I do also feel very strongly that also has something to do with just everything in my body.
Well, it does, but I think also you've been feeling the effects of this planetary alignment for the past couple of weeks, which I think has naturally heightened your anxiety and your stress level. So that also is going to play into that.
Yeah. I'd like it to calm down.
So let's talk about some Capricorns, shall we?
Yes, we shall. We shall do that.
So neither Rachael or I are Capricorn suns. However, we both have Capricorn in our chart pretty prominently. I am a Cap moon and a Cap rising.
Same.
And so is she. That's right. I thought you were only moon, but you are.
I'm Cap.
Yep. And so there are some differences between people that are Capricorn suns and people that are Capricorn moon. And a lot of times it's rooted in the areas of their life that are influenced by that Capricorn energy or whatever sign you're talking about, right? So the sun tends to represent our like core identity, if you will, and our outward expression of that, where the moon is governing more of like the emotional world and the inner self.
And the rising is how others view.
Right. So the rising also plays a role in how we present ourselves, right? So how others view us, but also how we interact with the world and present ourselves to the world.
Yeah, it's like the external version of that.
Well, when I was kind of looking into this a little more deeply, and I've always felt like a late bloomer. We've joked before on the podcast that I looked like Joseph Gordon-Levitt until I was like in my 30s or something.
That is not true, but yes.
And like, I just always felt like a late bloomer in general.
I would say that too. I would 100% say that.
And that is
for myself
often a Cap rising thing, because Cap risings tend to have their confidence grow over time, which I thought was like really interesting because I never had equated that to my birth chart at all.
I think that's so interesting too, because I do a lot of inner child work. I've been doing quite a bit of it. Keeps coming up. And when I look at pictures from my adolescence, I'm like, you were such a nerd. Like, I just did not.
Listen, our daughters today do not look like we did when we were 11 years old.
No, not. And even like the things they're interested in, I was not interested in.
Right.
That is so interesting. Isn't it fun I think it's so fun to look back and analyze, take this information and apply it. It has so much validity.
It really does. Have you looked into any of famous Capricorns when you were researching for this?
I did.
I did too.
There's a lot of fucking scholars, a lot of like inventors, scholars, authors, like we're talking, and athletes, musicians, like just artists.
And I do want to say that I feel like January Caps, like later in January, have a much different energy than people that are like late December Capricorns. Very much different energy, because like some of the earlier December ones that I found were like Denzel Washington and Tiger Woods. And they're like more of those serious, like very reserved energy kind of people. Whereas the people that were on the back end of January were like Dolly Parton and Michelle Obama and Martin Luther King Jr. So like people that were much more out there publicly, I would say, and not quite as reserved in what they were sharing with the world.
I wrote down a couple: Janis Joplin, Joan of Arc, David Bowie, Paul Simon, Ben Franklin.
I can't even go there. I don't know if you guys know this, But Ben Franklin
invited the
he invited the light bulb, guys.
Invited the light bulb to the party.
According to Rach, he invented the light bulb in one of our earlier episodes.
Which he did not. If you don't know that, he was an inventor and he did a lot of really cool stuff.
I actually found a really cool peel and stick wallpaper that's Ben Franklin, but with like the big bubblegum bubble in front of him.
Yes, I've seen it.
I want to put it in my laundry room.
Yeah, that is hilarious.
That would be the first thing you see when you walk into my house in the back.
Yep.
So I wanted to look at other people of popularity or of note that were Gemini suns like me, but also Cap rising and Cap moon. And it was an interesting mix of people because it's people that you can definitely tell are a little crazy, right? Some of them more crazy than others, which like I'll own my crazy.
Everyone has a level of crazy.
Right.
Everybody.
But also people that are very dedicated.
Disciplined, yeah.
To whatever it is they're doing.
Their craft.
Right. So like Angelina Jolie falls in that category. Prince, Marilyn Monroe, Kanye. I mean, that hurts my heart, but I don't ever want to be in a world where I'm compared to Kanye, but there it is, guys.
Oh, bless.
But you can say this. He is certainly dedicated to whatever it is he's dedicated to.
Yeah. Yeah. And
they're all very creative.
Yeah. All of those people you have mentioned are creative humans that have gifted the world in some way, shape, or form. They might need to stop gifting the world in some way, shape, or form, but
we're talking to you, Kanye.
Yeah. I do think that it is fascinating to see when you take that information and you do that kind of, you play that game of like, well, who else's signs are the same? Because I think that is really cool.
Who do you share a birthday with?
I have no idea. You mean outside of my brothers?
Right. Like, do you know anybody like celebrity wise?
No, nobody that I know. There are people that are born on October 24th.
Naturally.
Yeah, I was not the first. But I don't think anybody stood out that was like, I was like, oh my God, that's so cool. I think they were a bunch of dudes. Drake is born on October 24th.
Monica, you should have been an R&B artist.
Apparently.
Also a bunch of people that I don't know.
Yep.
I do share a birthday with Paul McCartney.
Oh, that's fun.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And Isabella Rossellini. Those are the two I know.
She
narrates a mean nature show. I'll tell you that.
Okay. I think it's also interesting too, because Caps are a feminine sign and they're also earth, which for me, that allows me to bring in a different element for both.
Right. So if you're just kind of getting into astrology, every single zodiac sign has a ruling planet, a ruling element,
and a feminine or masculine disposition.
Exactly. And so the ruling planet for Capricorn is Saturn, which is really connected with discipline and structure and karma. And it is associated with the element of earth, which is that like grounded, practical, goal-oriented kind of energy.
Yep. And the symbol, if you will, for a Capricorn is known as a sea goat.
It is a goat. Yeah.
Or it can also be half goat, half man too, in different cultures. Basically, it's a grounding. You have this discipline, as Kristen has mentioned. You're patient and you are inquisitive and determined and you seek security are just a few of the characteristics that oversee it. But there's quite a bit of history too with the sea goat in different cultures, all representing similarly the planet Saturn as well. They vary, but not all that different from each other. They're very connected.
Do you know anything about that? Can you share more? Because I don't know a lot about that.
I did read about it. I did not put any of the things down in my notes. We could probably pull it up real fast.
Capricorn season generally runs like December 22nd to like January 19th-ish, roughly. I think specifically Capricorns that are sun sign Capricorns just struggle with that balance of their like seriousness all the time with like the festive chaos of this time of year. So I think that there are some ways that you can harness this Capricorn energy and use it for yourself during this time of year. Because quite honestly, like the Capricorn energy can be a lot. And Cap Suns, it's usually like more about the ego and the identity and the life purpose, where they often view themselves as like very practical people that are kind of no nonsense, right?
And they do a lot of structuring around success being based in wealth and money, materialistic things.
They want to be seen as dependable,
right?
By the outside world.
Mm-hmm.
And for Cap moons too, like it's really like that emotion and inner world and subconscious needs. I can speak to this too, both as a Cap moon and a Cap rising, which is that overachieving energy can really like grab hold of me sometimes. It can be hard to express your vulnerability openly when you have a Capricorn in like a major placement. And I can, also relate to where a lot of my emotional satisfaction is or can be tied to my achievement or my security. Do you feel that as a Cap moon and rising?
Mildly. I think I get a lot of satisfaction by, as far as like, if I were to categorize like like how I view success and being successful, by getting validation from others. And I have I have a lot of determination and I have discipline in the sense that they're a part of the structure of the day and of the week or whatever the task is. Like I'm very task oriented in that regard. Like I will be like, what do we need to get done? Okay, let's check off this list. I love a good list, but I also don't equate that to how much wealth I've acquired, how much stuff I've acquired.
I don't either, but
that
I think
part of the ego does not.
I think that's because we're not Cap Suns.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think that has a lot to do with it because it's more the emotional side for me too.
Yes.
Than it is like I don't attach any of that stuff to my identity.
Right.
But internally, I am like, I've always called myself like a calculated risk taker, where I'm a very spontaneous person and I like to be spontaneous and have fun, but I also have to have my I's dotted and my T's crossed before I will allow myself to be that way.
No, I would associate that. I would say that I am very similar in that regard too.
If all of my shit is done, I have no problem hopping on a plane today and just going somewhere.
Yes.
But if I have a laundry list of stuff that I haven't been able to do, there's no way I'm doing that.
Totally. And I am also of the mindset, like when the kids go back to school, I love it because it does bring so much structure. And I don't so much love giving other people structure as I do like giving myself structure. Like sometimes I find when Jeff has days off, if I just allow whatever to happen instead of being like, no, this is what we need to get done. Da, 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 da. Like I work very differently when I'm by myself than when I'm with a bunch of other people. Like I just structure my brain differently than if other people are around. Okay, so a little bit more about the sea goat. Also, it can be also known as Pan, which is when it's half goat, half man. They kind of blend interchangeably a little bit here. They say that he is the god who saved himself from the monster typhoon. Capricorn is identified as the satyr Pan, the god with the goat's horns and legs, who saved himself from a monster by giving himself a fishtail, becoming a sea goat, and diving into a body of water.
Wow. You really went for it.
The winter solstice in the northern hemisphere. Oh, this is interesting. The winter solstice in the northern hemisphere no longer takes place while the sun is in the constellation Copernicus, as it did until 130 BCE. The constellation of Capricorn is still used to show the position of the solstice.
I think that's something we should touch on at some point. Do you remember a couple of years ago, this kind of became bigger where people were talking about how things have shifted, right? The constellations have shifted. People were like, oh my God, I'm not really this sign, because now the constellations are like in a different spot during those months than they were when we were born. And, or I actually don't know what they were when we were born specifically. I would assume that when you have your birth chart done, that those are accurate readings, but I would wonder, since things have shifted now, if somebody born today,
right,
on December 20th would have the same placement as someone born in 1980.
No, I think
on December 20th.
Well, yeah, that is interesting to think about because it shifts so slowly too, but it would have to have moved.
Right, because they were saying that all of the zodiac signs had shifted.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I don't know enough about that to speak on it intelligently, but I would like to. And if you do know more about that and would like to come on and talk to us about it and speak intelligently, please send us an email. We want to hear from you. So we know that this Earth energy ruled by Saturn can feel heavy, I would say. And also at the same time, we have that shift into winter, at least for us here in Pittsburgh, where it's really going to start to get cold. You're really going to be spending more time inside, and energy can just feel heavier. In January, I think specifically, it's still fun in the end of December and you have the holidays and celebration. But then when January hits, it's like, and I think that a couple of things I was thinking are setting big goals and breaking them down. So this is like a really good time of year to be disciplined and create like clear actionable steps for you, because you're supported by that Capricorn energy, not necessarily because this time of year lends itself to being disciplined, but because this is a time of year when it's super important. And the more you can kind of structure your routine, to your point, like the more you can bolster yourself and feel better and feel like you are working towards something rather than just kind of floundering around in all this heavy energy.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's a great time to enjoy the elements that exist that are different. I think we are so apt to hide from the cold. And there is something about that, right? Like there's something about getting warm and cozy, sitting in front of a fire and all of that. I love that. But I also really love too going on a short, brisk walk, getting outside. I always feel that the trees talk so much more in the winter than they do in the summer.
100%.
Like it's such an interesting
I think
energy.
I also think that it's easier to listen to them because there's generally less people out and about. To your point though, like grounding walks are super important. And we actually did that this morning. So it was cold and blistery and snowy this morning. We've just had our first snow of the year. I was like, it's in my plan to walk today. It was definitely a conversation between us because I know he doesn't really like walking out in the cold necessarily. And I was like, okay, well, I'm going to go walk. If you want to join me, that's awesome. Right. Because I knew it was something that I needed to do for myself. He was like, all right, cool. I'll come with you. And we had the best time.
And I like the other part of just going for a brisk cold walk is then coming back in to like the warm. It's like it's like the coming together of the two different.
Right. It's the dichotomy of the two.
Yeah.
Right? It's the same thing. So
it like clears your brain out and then you like can sit down to think and you're like, it's like everything's clear.
Well, and that's just it. You can have the warm and cozy and still go out and connect with nature and be out in the cold. And that's what we did. We have a favorite little coffee shop that's around the corner. So we stopped there. I got this tea that's called Christmas in a Cup. And it was fantastic. And it was even better because we had just been out walking and our faces were all snowy.
No, I love that. And I think it's this time of the year too, to your point about having goals and having determination still and sticking to that, because it's easy to allow ourselves to get sad or have sad, which we talked about, the seasonal disorder. I love having these goals, just having a time of reflection, I think is a great time. Not so much, again, I know that the new year happens during Cap season, but like we're not focusing so much on a new year as we are just as the seasons shift and being a part of the season. You're in the season, right? Like Cap is full winter. It's not a little bit of fall. It's not a little bit of spring. It's full on winter. You really just, when you think about winter, what are the feelings that get brought up for you? And just being able to still have goals and be driven when it's cold. It's a struggle. It's a struggle.
Right. Well, and to your point with reflecting is reviewing, like what challenges have you had over the past year and what did you learn from them?
And it's a great time to do that when you can be warm and cozy, because to do that exercise and to do it well will take time and it'll take energy.
Right. I've gotten more into, I'm a journaler, but the past almost 2 weeks now, I've been allowing myself to creatively write every single morning and songwrite.
Oh, that's fun.
Yes. And I just set a timer for 5 minutes, and whatever flows out of me. And I try not to necessarily set a theme or anything, but it has been fantastic. And the longer I do it, the easier it gets, right? This is a time when we can be supported by the energy to not just reflect and review, but focus on that self-discipline. Because when you start looking at the challenges and the lessons that you learned, you're also going to start seeing the patterns of where you want to be more disciplined because it supports you, not because you have to, but because it feels better, right? It feels better to go for a walk. It feels better to have a meal that's prepped when you have a crazy week, rather than like floundering and having to stop and get something on the go. Because for a lot of us, there's a lot of guilt and a shame that can be attached with, oh, I didn't do this thing that I should have done to prepare myself.
Totally. And I think it's just important really to stay super, super grounded during this time, because this is when bad habits can form.
Oh, that's a good point.
And naturally, I can only speak from my personal experience, but I know that I move less in the winter. So that is something that I am going to focus on. We touched on this earlier about getting out in the morning and going outside kind of as like that cold plunge experience, but having the cold air kind of hit your face and wake you up, that sort of thing. I think that those types of exercises, they set the momentum for the rest of the day. And so I find it's much harder for me to push myself to do things in the winter than it is in the summer.
Oh, for sure. And the longer the day goes on, the harder it is to get yourself to push them, because then all of the must do, should do, to do's, have to do things creep in, and it's so much easier to push that time outside just completely out of your mind.
Totally. So if you don't have Capricorn at all in any of your houses, but you're listening to this episode, you can still take advantage of this energy. You can still channel this energy that is at this moment.
Right.
So you're not alone by any stretch of the imagination. We all have a team of light right on the other side. You just have to ask, law of free will, ask for help, ask for guidance, ask for signs, but also, to Kristen's point, journal, write it down. Even if you journal in your mind, like start somewhere that feels comfortable. If you don't feel comfortable writing stuff down in a book or a tablet or on your phone, then just journal in your mind. Once you start doing that, you will eventually then move to something more concrete, whether that's journaling. Also isn't just writing. You can journal and create in art. You can paint. There's so many ways that you can express yourself that are creative, that don't have to be this traditional, like get a journal with a date and a time. I have been the most inconsistent journal writer of anybody I know. And I love that. I have journals all over the house, and I'll just pick one up randomly and I will write in it. I think that is just true for any kind of art and form of expression.
Do you date them so that you go back?
I always date. Yeah. That's one thing I do. I'm very good at, is putting a date on things.
I do the same thing. My journaling also changes with how I'm feeling. So to your point, if you are not feeling writing in a notebook, or you're not feeling writing in the notes in your phone, I've also gotten into voice memos before. So I went through like a long stretch where I was just leaving voice memos for myself every day. And it could be like, sometimes it was my gratitude, where I would be like, okay, I'm just going to say everything that I'm grateful for 3 minutes. Other times it was when I had something. I remember one like very in particular where it was super cold and snowy in the winter, and I was swimming on master's team. I didn't want to go. I just didn't want to go. I didn't want to be cold afterwards. There's not time to like shower and do all the things afterwards. So it's just like going out with your hair wet,
right?
And getting in your car, and you have a swimsuit on. So now your seats are wet and then they're going to freeze. And
Yes.
it's like a whole thing. Right?
Yes. Yeah.
So I really didn't want to do it. And I forced myself to go. And then afterwards, I came out and I was so proud of myself and I felt so good. And it's really what I needed. I'd had a hard day too, like emotionally. Yep. And so I have a voice memo saved in there from that where it was like, look, you didn't want to do this. Like, look at how you feel. The next time you don't want to do something that's hard, go listen to this voice memo.
Yeah, for sure.
So there are a million ways, whether you leave yourself a Post-it note or a mental note, to journal your experience and start to reflect, but also start to allow yourself to be vulnerable. And that's something that Capricorn energy can be suffocating with, is not allowing yourself to be vulnerable. While it might not be supporting you to be vulnerable right now, I think it's really important that you make that a part of this season and opening up emotionally to people in your life that love you and that you can trust with those feelings. And then embracing play, including play, like creativity. It does not have to be so fucking serious all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Take care of yourself. And sometimes that looks like playing. Sometimes that looks like fucking off with your friends and family. And that's okay. Also, seasonal rituals. Just get into them. Vision boards, legacy letters, grounding meditations. Make time for yourself. Last night, actually, you had sent me a Yoga Nidra invitation. And I used to go to like Yoga Nidra classes, but I had never done one virtually before. And it was so good. I fell asleep. I don't know what happened. I missed the whole end of it. But I laid in bed and I did it. And I was like, remember being in such a great space. And I actually had 2 different situations yesterday during meditations where I actually attained a place that I have not unlocked and been able to attain spiritually in a long time. But it's like a feeling that I remember and a feeling that I know. And it was like super cool to get there again.
Wow, that is.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I don't know what I missed at the end because I know she does like a chakra, like a virtual Reiki.
It's on YouTube. She'll put it on YouTube.
Thankfully, our cameras were off. So who knows if she was talking to us at the end?
Yeah.
Probably. I woke up and it was a half an hour after.
And
the session was done.
Were you still on?
No, the meeting was gone.
Yeah.
Like the meeting was canceled. And Charlie, it was like 10 something. And Charlie was coming in from rehearsal.
Oh, nice.
And he was like, are you sleeping? Which is like very not on brand for me.
I was going to do it, but then Emily was like, you're going to be gone all night tomorrow night. Please just stay in here with us. And so I couldn't argue with that. I was like, okay. And then we watched the Steelers not play well.
No, after that, I got up and watched the rest of the game.
I did not. I watched till halftime and then promptly went to bed. Well, I've been reading. I've been being very, very, very intentional about reading.
Good.
I know. It does feel good. I think sometimes it's hard to just the mindset of things. We get so caught up. I know I get caught up in the structures that we have put in place from a society standpoint. And I love to buck the system. I love it. That is not Capricorn. That's more Scorpio. I love to challenge the system. And so I took Emmy. I was telling her how important it is for me to make time to read and to meditate, and how it is more important than having a clean home or all the laundry done. But I was also explaining that the juxtaposition there is when you have things in order in your home, then the energy flows freely in the home. So there is this combination of when I look around, we have a small home and I think we have too much stuff. And so it's just like, how can I eliminate this stuff that I really don't need that then allows my life to flow? Like laundry, for example, that is never going to be done. It is a cycle. So you cycle through one of your kids' laundry. You cycle through the next kid's laundry. You cycle through your laundry. So I already have that. So when I see laundry, I'm just kind of like, it's a cycle. I don't feel like I have to have it done. Same with the dishes. Same with cooking. I just cycle through that. So I try to just see these spaces as my creative spaces that cycle through. And this is where social media, getting off of social media is so helpful, because naturally I fall in line with the algorithm that is mothers and cooking and cleaning and hacks and all of, within that genre. So then I see these videos and then I'm constantly like, what? Like if I wanted to do a cooking video, do you know how much work I'd have to go into like prepping my kitchen so it would look like not a fucking disaster?
I know because I do cooking videos. So
yeah. And so I'm just like, that's not real life, right? And then I have to allow myself that time to be like, it's not real life, Rachel. You're saying that in your brain and it's 100% accurate. Those are made for social media videos. So,
right. But I will say this, it may not be real life for the stage of life that you're in or the having 3 kids, all the things, right? But I have definitely been to people's houses before on multiple times, multiple occasions where I'm like, oh no, they just live differently. Like, and usually I will say it's people that don't have kids, like tend to, their dishes are always done.
Oh yeah.
They're like, you know, it is a very different kind of life.
Yes.
When you don't have kids versus when you are cleaning up.
Yes.
After people.
Oh yeah. We have a very lived in home.
Right. But it's not real life for us necessarily. But I will say too, to your point, the more that I create space, the easier it is for me. Life flows better.
Yes.
I'm more creative. Like ever since I redid the office here, it's so much easier for me to sit down and get work done. Our dining room area feels better because we have a piano moved out of there. So it's easier to sit down and have a meal. All of those things do flow more when you remove stuff.
Yep. No, I agree. I agree. And it is easy to just acquire stuff.
Oh my God. Yeah.
And so this is part of where I'm trying to explain to the children, you guys do your part to help with my part. We are in this together. This is our home. This isn't my home. This is our home and we need to take care of it. We need to care for it. That's just a lesson in this season too. I find that this time of year is a great time to also reflect on what you need and what you don't need. And what you don't need, get rid of it.
I saw a video yesterday and it was like every mom, like from now until Christmas. And it was just her cleaning out and like donating every single thing from every room in the house. I was like, oh, 100%. I'm in massive purge mode right now in our house. Nothing is safe. Not even Charlie.
Nope.
I might put him on the curb.
Then you won't have a friend to go walking with.
Just kidding. I would never.
A blustery walk with.
I do have some crystals. I will put these on our social media. There are some really great crystals that you can use to harness different parts of Capricorn energy. So if you want to see what those are, go to 2 Mystic Mamas, TWO Mystic Mamas on Instagram or on TikTok. They will come out with this episode.
Yay. I love that. I love to accompany crystals with energy.
Yeah, me too. I have a whole good list here too. Thank you guys for being with us here today.
Thank you. We wish you guys a very joyous holiday season, whatever holiday you celebrate. We hope that you are creating new memories with people and places and things that you love and that you can reflect and that you can move forward and that you can center and ground yourself as we move into winter. We're in the thick of it right now. So,
yep. And we have a few surprises coming for you guys next year. This will be our last episode of 2024. We're taking a little break. We're giving our editors a little break.
Yay.
And we'll still be behind the scenes, working hard, recording. Just look for a couple little nuggets from us over the coming weeks.
Yes. We love you.
We love you guys so much.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye.